My name is Brian Cabral, and I'm a second-year Ph.D. student at the Race and Equality in Language and Education Ph.D. program here at Stanford University. And this is my first year as a graduate student resident fellow here at the El Centro Chicano y Latino.
Hello, I am Dr. Casey Nichols, and I earned my PhD from the History Department here at Stanford in 2015, and I was a graduate scholar in residence from 2013 to 2015. And I'm currently an assistant professor of history at Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas.
My name is David Gonzalez. I am a fourth-year PhD candidate in the Emmett Interdisciplinary Program in Environment and Resources.
Hi, my name is Grace Perez-Jung, and I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in the School of Education in Science Education and the Learning Sciences, and also a graduate fellow at El Centro Chicano and Latinx.
Hi, my name is Dr. Guadalupe Carrillo, and I received my PhD in English in 2014, and I was a graduate scholar in residence here at Centro Chicano from 2011 to 2013. I'm currently the Director of Inclusion and Diversity here at Stanford University, specifically in the School of Earth, Energy, and Environmental Sciences.
My name is Kimberly Higuera. I am a fourth-year doctoral student in the Sociology Department, and I am a second year in the Masters in Public Policy program.
Hello, my name is Dr. Maribel Santiago. I am an alum of the Stanford Graduate School of Education. I graduated in 2015, and I was a grad scholar in residence from 2013 through 2015. I'm currently an assistant professor of justice and teacher education at the University of Washington.
Hi, my name is Dr. Micaela Diaz-Sanchez. I was a scholar in residence here at El Centro Chicano y Latino from 2005 to 2009. I was in the doctoral program. At the time, it was called the Department of Drama. Now it's the Department of Theater and Performance Studies. I'm currently a professor, assistant professor in the Department of Chicana and Chicano Studies at UC Santa Barbara.
My name is Dr. Miguel Unzueta. I am a class of 2006 Stanford graduate. I did a PhD at the Graduate School of Business in the Organizational Behavior program. I was also a graduate scholar in residence here at Centro Chicano y Latino 2004 through 2006. My current job is I'm a professor of management and organizations at the UCLA Anderson School of Management. And I'm also serving there as the Senior Associate Dean of MBA programs.
I think the biggest thing to remind yourself as both a prospective or an early PhD student at Stanford in particular is that you are often going to be in spaces where you will feel both isolated and inferior in many ways. But that is okay. I think that is just part of the process of coming to a space that wasn't really built for people like us. But at the end of the day, it's very important for you to stay grounded in whatever communities that you come from, stay grounded in whatever identities that you hold, and be willing to expand outside of your comfort zone and meet different people from different departments. Students of color here at Stanford are often not in the same spaces, so it's very important to kind of build a network outside of your own department and outside of your own program. So my biggest advice is to be okay with meeting new people. It can be a little awkward most of the times, but it's also an opportunity for you to grow both intellectually, socially, and academically as well. There's another piece of advice that I would give to any prospective students of color in particular, which is to try and build relationships with professors even if they're not going to serve as your advisors. I have been fortunate enough to meet different faculty from other departments that have been very instrumental to my own learning. That isn't just bounded within the education program that I'm in. So I'm meeting folks from sociology, anthropology, history, and that's one of the beauties about Stanford is that we have such a breadth of knowledge among various intellectuals. And it's important for us to take advantage of that, especially if we are first-gen, low-income students of color that, we often don't know how to navigate those spaces. So I think it's incumbent upon us to kind of build together and to kind of seek those resources and mentorship from other folks across the university.
Some advice that I would give a current graduate student of color who really is committed to making their way through a graduate program is to, one, know that it can feel very isolating, and so you're not alone in feeling that way. even if other people around you may not describe that as their experience. Sometimes you can have an experience and feel very alone in it, but that doesn't mean that your concerns aren't valid. And so my two main pieces of advice is to find your community. And sometimes that community can look different from what you thought it would be. For me, I was able to find a variety of different communities. And some folks may not think that, say, for a Black woman, that may assume that El Centro Chicano y Latino may not be the right place, but that's not true, right? There are a variety of different spaces where you can sort of find your people who understand what you're going through and can provide some support community and support network as you're working toward gaining your degree. So my main source of advice is to find your people and to be open to the possibility of where they may be located, because they may not be where you automatically assume, but you got to sort of put yourself out there. And my second piece of advice is to keep pushing. And with keep pushing, that doesn't mean that you have to ignore your experiences or your feelings. Keep pushing may mean that you take advantage of resources at CAPS. It may mean that you take advantage of resources that are available for physical health and wellness, and so on and so forth, right? So my other advice is to keep pushing through, but also take advantage of the resources that are available to help you to push through, because there's so many here and you don't have to feel like you're alone. There are so many opportunities to make connections and to get what you need without necessarily feeling stigmatized or like perhaps you're just not good enough. But there's so much to help push you through.
My advice is to advocate for what you think is important in your research. I came to Stanford with an idea for what I wanted to do, and during my first few years here, I learned a lot and refined my questions and really came to understand more about the questions that motivate me, that I want to answer in my research. And one thing I had to do was to push my committee members to see why my research matters and to see why it was worth my time and our combined efforts to realize that project. Now that I'm in my fourth year and in the thick of it, this project has turned out to be really fruitful for me as a trainee and learning the skills that I want to learn, and also for pushing policy, for pushing the field, and for allowing me to engage in advocacy. So this has been, I'm really glad that I stood by my values and stood by what I knew to be important to do this project. And I think that translates to listening to yourself and listening to know what what you know to be true, and to advocate for that with your committee. It's about becoming an independent researcher. It's about finding your voice and the message and the story that you want to tell and the questions that you want to answer. So I'm glad that I was able to do that, and I had the committee that supported me in doing that.
An advice that I have for prospective PhD or graduate students that are coming to Stanford is to be themselves. There's a story for which you were selected to come to Stanford, so come here to tell your story and take advantage of the enormous resources, especially quality of people and network that Del Centro Chicano and Latinx provide to bring us together as scholars to push the boundaries of what could be imagined. And we could do that through sharing who we are in the stories of the communities where we come from. So come here and share who you are, share the stories of your community, and drive research forward and activism through your scholarship by doing so.
I would first encourage the student to just really take a step back and realize what an amazing accomplishment it is to be at Stanford University attaining your PhD, and that sometimes when things get hard with a PhD, it's such a rigorous training, we kind of lose sight of how far we've gone. And we really have to kind of remember what brought you here, and what brought you here was your talents, your accomplishments, your resilience, and just remember that you bring a lot to this community. I know a lot. Sometimes when we pursue higher education, we think about all the opportunities we receive and how grateful we are. and the opportunity we have to gain all this knowledge and to take these courses, but we can't lose sight of the fact that you're also bringing a lot, that you are an asset to this educational community, that you bring with you your stories, your experiences, and your knowledge. I think the biggest hurdle in the PhD process is really sort of transitioning to this identity of, I am a knowledge producer, I'm a researcher, I contribute to an intellectual community. And one of the things that I love about Centro and the Scholars Program is that it allows you to create that identity, to really see yourself as an academic, as a scholar. And I really am excited for you to be in that journey, and for you to really own that identity, that you could care about, literature and literary criticism and also social justice. Like, you don't have to find these things as incongruous. Like, you can integrate those identities.
Advice I would give current or prospective doctoral students is basically the things that you are interested in, especially for doctoral students of color, the things that you're interested in are important, and I don't think you should let other people make you question that. Oftentimes, we come to the academy with ideas or questions that relate to communities that have been long-term ignored or marginalized in the academy and broadly. And it can be difficult to be the only person in your program studying this group of people or studying these topics, or even having a mentor that knows what the topic is, That doesn't mean it's not important. I would say it's probably even more so important. And you shouldn't let other people's expertise sway you away from what you want to do. It's so much easier, and I've felt this pressure constantly, it's so much easier to try and just do what your cohort is doing, or try and do a project that just makes sense to every mentor around you, even if it's not exactly the group of people or the type of issue that you're interested in, or the lens that you're looking at the issue from. But you won't be happy with that long term, especially if you end up writing your dissertation. You want to be working on a project for several years that you feel very passionate about and that you can stand by at the end of it.
My advice to a grad student of color is to really value yourself. Stanford is a really hard place to be. It can mess with your mind. It can make you feel like you don't belong here. But you were admitted for a reason. You have something to contribute to Stanford. You are unique. You bring your own story. That story is part of what will shape your research here. And if you lose sight of who you are and what brought you to Stanford, and what valuable contributions you have as a human being, then it's going to be really hard to finish the dissertation and really hard to get through coursework. So really make sure that you value who you are and don't lose sight of that.
I really think that, again, those of us who had challenges navigating this academic trajectory, that we remember those challenges when we are teaching our own classes, right? So that we attend to those kinds of challenges that we had and make the world a better, an easier, or I don't want to say easier, but a better place for our students, a place that's more just, more attentive to their needs and to their experiences. And one of the things that I always tell my students is that you come into the classroom with a wealth of knowledge. Sheri Moraga always says, you know more than you know you know. And I always remind my students that, again, they carry with them an incredible amount of embodied knowledge that might not have been valued before. And so they come into the classroom, and I have as much to learn from them as they do from me. And I think that's always really important. It's an incredible responsibility to be a student and then also be a teacher. And I think that that responsibility needs to be taken incredibly seriously. Again, always thinking about the work that we do across disciplines, whether those are the sciences or the humanities, the social sciences, that we really think about doing work that makes the world a better place, that makes the world a more just place. Again, whether that means we're writing about literature or doing material sciences research, that again we think about moving the world forward in a place where everybody can live with dignity and integrity.
The main piece of advice that I'd like to relay to current graduate students is that, at least in my experience, every year got a little bit easier. I can say without a doubt that my first year was one of the hardest years of my academic life. I was very used to being good at school, and suddenly I got here to Stanford, and there was a sense of struggle in just trying to figure out how PhD life worked that was very unnerving because I'd never struggled that much to figure out academic matters. And fortunately, I was patient with myself, and just every year I got a little bit more competent. I kind of figured out how the game was played a little bit more every single year, to the point that by the time I was a fifth year, I was almost having fun. So I guess what I want to say is if you're in the thick of it right now in those first couple of years and things feel really rough, just be patient with yourself and things will improve as you figure out how the game is played. I think one of the issues that I struggled with when I got here to Stanford is I went to a big state university. I went to the University of Texas at Austin for my undergraduate degree. And UT is a big place. It's a place where you can get lost very easily. I was good at school. I had a good GPA and all that. I got involved in research, but still I didn't quite have the social skills or the knowledge necessary to figure out how to bond and connect with professors the way you need to here in graduate school. So I guess the advice I would like to relay is just the importance of having those relationships established with not only your advisor, but also other faculty members in your group. It varies by department, but by and large, at least in the department that I'm in now, and even the department that I was in here now, most professors are more than happy to talk about ideas, about research. And so figuring out ways to engage with them early so they know who you are, to get the conversation going, that is so important. And that's something that I struggled with early on. I think I was intimidated by the idea of just showing up and talking to faculty members. I was trying, but I couldn't get past that initial awkwardness. And I think part of that was rooted in the fact that I went to a big state school where there was minimal student to faculty interaction. I'm a first generation college student, so I was learning just the language and the way this place sort of worked. And so I think all of those things contributed to my hesitation at the very beginning. But grad school is really all about relationships and just trying to figure out who your people are going to be and who's going to be in your corner. Trying to figure that out as soon as you can, that's just critical for your success here. So try to get comfortable in your own skin and in engaging with these conversations with folks as soon as you can. And also realize that you really only need one person to be in your corner, and they can make a lot of things happen for you. And hopefully that's your advisor. But even if the initial advisor-advisee relationship you have doesn't work out, you just got to find somebody else. And really, you only just need one to succeed.